Hey guys, so in the last video, which was a Q&A, I got a question how to paint clouds. So I thought we could dedicate today's video to how to paint clouds. So this is just going to be like normal white clouds with a blue background on a sunny day. So let's jump in. Okay, so the colours that we're going to need are titanium white. Also, I just want to mention as well, this is not necessarily like a tutorial for a painting. This is just to show you how to put clouds together. So that you can use it within your painting. So this is not really going to be like a painting of its own that you can follow along with. Just kind of want to give you an idea of how you can do this in your own paintings. Titanium white, cobalt blue and orange. Okay, I'm already covered and we've not even started. Also, I'm going to use some nice wide kind of fluffy brushes. This is a hog bristle filbert and this is a size 12, and then this one is a flat edge and it's a size 8. These are both Winsor & Newton in the Winton range. So I like to use like a big kind of round brush to really sort of build it up. But first what we want to do is pop the sky on. So for that I'm going to use some cobalt, and this is just going to be the backdrop, and I'm going to add a little bit of white into there. Usually I'd probably add just like a little bit of red into this if I was making it a bit more realistic, but we're not really focusing on the sky today or the colour mixing of the sky. We're just going to focus on how to build up the clouds. So to blend that, I've used a lot of paint and I'm just going backwards and forwards. A lot of people have trouble blending. The trick really is to use enough paint and to do it fast. And then I'm going to just rinse off my brush. So we're going to wait for that to dry. Now I'm going to take actually I might stick with my big brush for now. I was going to go onto the smaller one, but I think for the first layer of the clouds I'm going to use the big brush again. So I'm just going to rinse it off, and I've like taken out any excess water with a towel so that it's kind of like damp, but it's not dripping wet. So next what I'm going to do is create like the base layer of the cloud. Now to do that I'm going to take some of the cobalt and a bit of orange. Now what this is going to do is make it a little bit like darker and less saturated. I'm going to add a little bit of white because that's a little bit too dark. But I kind of want like a grey colour. And that is just about right actually. So you can create whatever cloud shape you want. Let's see. I'm kind of going to create billowing clouds, and you can see with my brush I'm taking some of the paint and I'm just kind of going round circular movements, building up the shape of the cloud. And I might have that kind of coming over. And so it's really just about using the feel and the shape of the brush to kind of just like build that up. Then what I might do as well is create a bit more of a flat edge on the bottom of the cloud. Now once I've done that, I'm going to take some of the white and I'm going to add some white into that. I might need a little bit of water just to get a little lighter colour. And then what I might do is start to just build that cloud up. So this is what starts to make it more of a 3D cloud. And we don't want to go over too much of like, especially the bottom bit. But we're just starting to build that up now. Now next, something else we might want to do, I'm just going to rinse off my brush so it's quite clean again. What we might want to think about doing next is to add in some warmer colours. So I'm going to take some of the orange and some more of the white. Now the warmer colours tend to be lighter. That might be a little bit too orange, so I'm just going to put a little bit more blue in there. And you can see that this is a bit more of like an orangey colour. When I pop that on there, you can see it's warm. And so what we can start to do is kind of use these warm colours in certain sections of the cloud. So you don't want to do this all over, but we might think, okay, well, if the sunlight is kind of coming from this angle, we might think, well, let's put it on this side of the cloud. And then like this side, we could leave, I know I've put it on a little bit, but we can just kind of smudge that in a little bit more. And obviously here, this cloud might be in front of this bit, so we can kind of start to make them a bit more 3D. And I quite like to just let the clouds do themselves with like the composition or the drawing. I kind of just like let my brush do what it wants and then go in and edit them afterwards. So if there's something that I don't really like about the cloud, I can like go in and change it afterwards. So then what I might do is move on to my smaller brush. I'm just going to get a bit more paint. Okay, I'm absolutely covered. Can't even try to be a bit tidy. Okay, I'm going to get my smaller brush now. And this doesn't really matter. What I would like for you to experiment with is more the edge. So rather than a round brush, rather than something like this, which can be a little bit more difficult, when you use a flat edge or a filbert, it kind of lends itself to creating that shape. So now this is dried a little bit, what we're going to do is take some more of the titanium white and we can start to put our more like our highlights on now. So we don't want to add too much white. What we want to do is make this like the lightest part of the cloud, and this is where it starts to kind of build up. And we can start to create the story around the cloud. And sometimes squinting as well really helps this. I like to use the corner of my brush as well for like a little bit of detail or those kind of like wispy areas. You can pick up the canvas too by just putting it on really lightly and kind of getting those little wispy edges. And then I kind of use like my brush as like a crisscross method. So there's no like harsh lines, but it doesn't matter too much if there is a harsh line because I would just keep on building it up and then I'd go back and kind of change that as required. So you can see that even in just a few minutes, we're really building up these cloud shapes already. Also this like little highlight, I do like to add a little bit more texture here as well. A bit of like thicker paint. Just soften it up a little bit. Or you could do like little circular movements with the brush. So yeah, then kind of what I'd do at this point, rinse my brush out really well, get everything, bit of paint off. I'd kind of step back and look at it and see, okay, what don't I like about it? What's not quite right? I think these are a bit too harsh. So then what I might do is go in with a different color again, just mix in like that darker color, add in a bit of white. And then what I might do is just like soften that out. So it's not quite as harsh. And you can even go ahead and add in like, if you want more color, you can go ahead and add in like a really warm section. So if the sun's coming in from this way, the warmer sections will kind of be on this side. So you can even add, some of my paintings I've added like quite a lot of warmth in and kind of played around with that warm versus cool. So it's definitely fun to have a play around with adding in some colors. You can kind of experiment with pinks or whatever it is. And then you can kind of just recreate that highlight again on top. So it's kind of like just moving backwards and forwards in between the layers, not really being too careful, but just thinking I'll I'll kind of add and take away as I like. Now the last thing that I do like to do, this is just more my kind of style. Also just ignore this bit, like we can get rid of that. It's just bugging me a little bit. What we could do at this point, and what I really like to do in my paintings, is take some of the original sky colour and then use that to carve back into the cloud again. So we might like think this is too circular, so I might just like kind of go in and pick out some of those little shapes, or perhaps it's just like little bits, nooks and crannies in there, and you can even then like blend that out again, create a bit of a softer line. Also, I know I'm blending with my finger, I totally do not recommend to do that. And normally when I'm in the flow, I don't do that. I will use a brush, but because, I don't know, because I'm filming, I tend to do things a little bit more quicker. So you can kind of blend that out using like different brushes. I also really love this soft area just here. So I'm gonna keep that, but to contrast that, I'm gonna pop in some of those harder edges on the underneath of that to pick out that depth. So yeah, this is like then how I build up the sky, and this is why it's really nice, because once you start to add these little like sections into the background too, it kind of creates the same style throughout. So rather than having like a really soft blend with the cloud on top, what you start to do is then like integrate the two. And that's what kind of helps it have that real like stylized feeling with a lot of impressionistic marks. So this is kind of like my cloudscape and how I put clouds together in a painting. It's really nice to remember that you can do this over so many layers. Like this was just such a quick, brief kind of overview of how I go about painting a cloud, but realistically when it's in a painting that I'm working on, I'll add maybe 5, 6, 7 layers to the clouds, taking away, and each time I come back to it I'll think, oh, what's not working, change a little bit, add little bits here and there. So sometimes we get hung up on it like needing to be perfect the first time, and if it's not, then we've failed and we're rubbish as an artist and we can get upset. But realistically, it's just about being open to change and open to the painting like evolving as you go, and not seeing changes or mistakes as issues, but really using them to help you grow as an artist is really the key. So if you've been really interested in this kind of system, this technique that I've been using, I'd love for you to have a little look at the taster session of Learn to Paint with Confidence. That's my online course where we really delve deep into a lot of these techniques, into colour mixing and how to layer a painting. So if that sounds great, I'll pop the link to the taster session in the description box below and in the comment section. And I hope you have a beautiful day. See you guys, bye.